Hello, welcome to a little bit of a different type of video. So basically, in this video, I'm going to be talking about the downward spiral SpongeBob has been on since really the fourth season, so around like 2004-ish, after the hit movie SpongeBob Squarepants the movie. Is that what it's called? Sure is. So yeah, basically, I'm gonna be talking about how bad current day SpongeBob is because I went through and I watched just some episodes from the new stuff and also just researched stuff, so I didn't spend a long ass time watching 12 seasons of a show. The first 3 seasons of the show are great animated TV, kids TV even. There's an entire episode in season 2 or 3 where the entire premise of the episode is just SpongeBob and Patrick saying fuck over and over. This was a show for anyone.
How the fire?
Nice day, isn't it, Squidward?
Now current day SpongeBob is so dulled down, and for kids it's not enjoyable for people who used to like the show back in the early 2000s, or even people just discovering it now probably look at it and it's like, oh, it's just another dumb kids thing, had they not heard of it prior. But it's gotten so bad and so dulled down, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
I can't hear you!
Aye, aye, Captain!
Oh!
So the reason that I say that the show was only good for the first 3 seasons up to the movie is because I looked it up, and what a lot of people consider the golden age of SpongeBob is from season 1 all the way to the movie. So I decided I'll watch the first 3 seasons to familiarize myself, and then I'll watch through a lot of the rest of it. So one of the key reasons why SpongeBob got bad after season 4 is because in 2002 SpongeBob was put on hold after the 3rd season, so Steven Hillenburg, the creator of the show, could put more focus on making the movie. And then once the movie was done, he decided that he wanted to end the series because he didn't want to jump the shark because the show had gotten so big, and he was just like, it's good where it's at. And he also thought that it was more than enough seasons for a show like that. And people can, like I said, consider this the end of the golden age. And I completely understand where they're coming from. So Hillenburg left the show, and then a lot of the original writers did as well, and the storyboard artists. And Nickelodeon still wanted to produce more episodes, so they just did it without Hillenburg, even though he was an executive producer. But the show's obviously isn't the same. Hillenburg did come back to the show in 2014 though, but the show was too far gone at that point, and the characters had already been so much had changed with them to where it just was unredeemable, I guess, if that's even the right word. The shift in producers and writers didn't affect him financially, because SpongeBob was bigger than ever, and it was like, oh, everyone knew SpongeBob because the movie had a theatrical release, and people who didn't know the show before the movie then were able to find it, and it was on Nickelodeon all the time too. So people just flipping through the channels, remember that, could just find the show and be like, hey, this is interesting. But yeah, so it didn't affect them financially, but character-wise, they ended up spiraling into a weird point where we're at today. So I did go back and watch a lot of the first 3 seasons, and I forgot how good these are because when I was younger, I watched a lot of the newer stuff because that's just what was on at the time. And there was no like on-demand stuff that I had where I could just go back and watch the early episodes. But yeah, season 1 and 2 have a lot of good episodes, and season 2 has a lot of my favorite episodes being like Band Geeks, other ones. But yeah, it had the Alaskan Bullworm episode, it had the Graveyard Shift, the Secret Box, Christmas Who, I really enjoyed that episode, and Dying for Pie, Wormy, Bubble Buddy. Season 2 is by far and away my favorite season of this show. In season 3, there weren't as many memorable episodes, but I still really enjoyed this season because it was still so similar to the first 2, to where I love this show. I love SpongeBob, but after the writer shift and all that, and Hillenburg left the show got so bad, and it just, it's so, I'll talk about it later, but yeah, so this show, had they ended when Hillenburg wanted to, it would have ended with the last episodes of the show. It would have ended with the Strangler episode and the episode where SpongeBob and Patrick are invisible. So it would have ended with those, and I don't think that would have been a good ending for those who really enjoyed the show, because though the movie was really good and I really enjoy it, granted I haven't watched it in recent years, but from my memory it's really good, but I don't think it would have been a good ending. And if they were gonna end the show, like actually be like, okay, this is it, I think they should have ended, had they like switched around episodes and all that, they should have ended it with the party episode, because you see a lot of the characters together and you're like, oh, this is a really cool way to end this show. So it had SpongeBob ended at season 3, maybe the show wouldn't have the popularity that it does, but it still would have been good for those who liked and watched the show back then. So now we're on to the last 9 seasons that there's been, because I'm pretty sure there's been 12. These are the seasons I grew up more, like I said, just because they were the newest at the time and would play the most on Nickelodeon. Even though occasionally some episodes from 2 and 3 would play, the view I have of SpongeBob is really post movie SpongeBob, more so just because that was what was on at the time, and they wouldn't play nearly as much of the old stuff as they would the new stuff. So basically now I want to talk about the characters. In the first 3 seasons, SpongeBob, his personality is, he's intelligent, but he's just misguided. But after Hillenburg leaves the show and post movie, he turns way too stupid for what the character is. The character becomes unlikable, and realizing that now, it's understandable why a lot of adults in my life didn't like SpongeBob, and that's because they saw a lot of the newer stuff where SpongeBob was just absolutely just dumb, he was dumb for the sake of being dumb. And it very much makes a lot more sense, because the first 3 seasons, I very much agree, those are way better than the last 9. So I now understand why a lot of the adults in my life just didn't like SpongeBob the way I did. As is like evident with most comedies, there's stuff written to be dumb. There's a lot of stuff that's written to be dumb, and stuff that was written to be dumb was too dumb, because SpongeBob was already dumb to the point where it had to be just normally. He was then too dumb for those dumb moments for the audience to handle. And I'm not saying that kids wouldn't like it. Kids would probably very much enjoy it, like, oh, ha ha ha, he's doing a goofy thing, ha ha. But it's more so for the teenage adult audience, I'm thinking, more so, just because that's the group I'm in. So it's just too dumb at points where it's like, oh, this is so bad, this isn't the SpongeBob I used to know. And now Patrick, he was dumb, but he was smart enough to know what is happening. But now he's just on the same plane as SpongeBob, and it seems like there's almost too much stupidity in the show. There's no balance, they're just on the same plane, and it's really annoying at points. Squidward, he starts as a relatable character, but season 4 onward, he starts having fewer emotions, fewer lines, fewer jokes, which I almost forgot about even, because when I went back and watched through the original 3 seasons, I was like, oh, Squidward actually has jokes. And like I said, I saw a lot of the newer stuff, so this older Squidward was a whole new thing to me, and I was like, whoa, this is weird to see. But then I'm like, oh, well, he was a much better character here, but now he's not that great of a character, because he's just a depressing character. You end up just wanting to ignore him, and this is why, until I rewatched these original seasons, I just didn't like Squidward, and I was like, this is a bad character, I don't like this guy. But now going through and seeing his more comedic moments, and him just being a better character in general, I'm like, I like this guy. This guy's funny. Now Mr. Krabs, in the earlier seasons, he cared about money, his daughter, and friendship. But in the later seasons, 2 of the 3 are gone. Guess which one's gone? You're right. It's fun, friendship, and his daughter. I'm having a stroke. Sorry. But yeah, he only cares about money. Which is why, in my head at least, those are the traits that are way more exaggerated in my head. Because in these later seasons, it seems that the show writers focused in on the characters' important characteristics and just disregarded all other ones that were built in the original seasons, in the building block seasons, I guess you could call it. But yeah, it's just so much worse. Just all the characters, all their other traits, all their kind of background traits more so, get pushed to the back burner, and their main characteristics are amplified to the point where you don't see anything about the secondary or tertiary characteristics. So there's an episode where SpongeBob wants to stay at Pearl's slumber party for whatever reason, and SpongeBob makes an explosion of root beer, and Krabs finds out about it, and he walks straight past Pearl, his daughter, to see if his newspaper collection was okay before his own daughter. However the daughter was made, that's not this video. But it shows that, like I was saying, the writers are like, okay, let's amplify this main characteristic this character has and just run with it for the entire rest of the show until we get told, hey, stop making this show. But yeah, now to just go speedo mode. Plankton, he's dumb, even though he still makes inventions. Karen's a nagging housewife. Mrs. Puff, she's only centered around her hatred for SpongeBob. So now the plot for each episode can basically be boiled down into one of 3 things. It's either something having to do with the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob and Patrick are just annoying Squidward, and then SpongeBob and Patrick are just fucking around, just around Bikini Bottom. And there's a lot less jokes in the show, and it's pandering to kids. Although it's a kids show, it used to be enjoyable for adult audiences, and like I said before, there's an entire episode about SpongeBob and Patrick just saying the F word over and over. Not the bad one. Fuck. But yeah, just to kind of wrap this up in a bow, the SpongeBob was a show for everyone, and it was one of the few kids shows that adults could enjoy too. And I remember me and my dad, we would sit in our recliner, I'd be on his lap, and we just watch SpongeBob. And granted, he was in his early to mid 20s when we would watch it, but it shows that it would bring a common ground to both parents and kids. And SpongeBob used to be a show that anyone could watch, but now the show's just so dumb and it's so dulled down, and the characters are so one-dimensional to where it's just, there's nothing there, and the shows aren't enjoyable anymore. In terms of when they should have ended the show, I personally think they should have ended it after season 4, because you can tell that there's a switch. Because when I went from watching a season 3 episode to the first episode of season 4, I was like, this is such a different vibe that I'm getting from this show. It's way dumber already, and that was before it just descended into being a bad show. But yeah, overall, season 4, it isn't the worst thing, but the show does seem very lackluster from season 5 on. So I think the show could have continued at season 4 and should have ended after season 4. But yeah, in season 4, the characters got super flat and they focused on their main characteristics as they are now. But yeah, the writers didn't think about any of the characteristics aside from what sticks out as their main ones, and they just keyed in on the main characteristics and they just only ran with those, which really pisses me off because the characters used to be good, the show just in general used to be good. And going back to the story thing, how it's one of 3 things, it used to be no episode seemed similar. It was like there was one episode where SpongeBob makes a bubble blowing stand. They're playing at what's supposed to be the Super Bowl, and it's just, there's so many different episodes and they're very unique to where now the show is one of 3 things, and it's fairly predictable of how the show is gonna end up. But yeah, I don't know if they plan on making any new episodes soon. or what, because I know they're coming out with a movie, with a third movie in like next month, I think. But yeah, so that's that for this video. I really enjoyed doing research for this video. And if you guys want to see more videos like this where I just do analysis type stuff, let me know. I really enjoyed doing this video. But yeah, so that's it. Bye bye.